Can people see the slides okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. I can't see the chat, so I asked some of my teammates to let me know if there's things going on in the chat, and I don't mind, again, if people just jump in, um, during the intro if something's not working, because I can't see the chat. So again, to get started here, let's just get going with some hellos in the chat, if you wouldn't mind putting your name, your connection to Burlington, whether you're a teacher, parent, community member, and what brings you here tonight? What do you hope to take away from tonight's session? All right, I just ask again, if you are still working on that, please do that at some point. Introduce yourself, your connection to the Burlington Public Schools community, and why you're here tonight. And again, thank you everyone for being here. To the next slide. So first, just to start with our introductions, as I said, welcome. My name is Patrick Larkin. I'm the assistant superintendent here in Burlington, and I'm going to pass it off to my colleague and friend, Ray.
Hi, everybody. Again, welcome. It's good to see everybody. Glad you're all able to spend some time tonight. It's been a little bit of a stretch here with a bunch of different things happening. So I know town meetings and different things are happening tonight and have been happening this week. So we appreciate folks being able to carve out some time to spend here. And we also know that some folks have to jump off at different times, so we completely understand. And again, gratitude for being able to pop in and participate, share some thoughts and things like that. So I want to pass the mic over to our esteemed colleagues who are also here with us in leadership roles. But before we get to that, we want to just revisit some of the norms and agreements for the time together. We just ask that people stay engaged. We know we are all at home or in different places. And if you can be on camera, that'd be great. If you can't, for a variety of reasons, we understand. Mute when you can. If there's other stuff going on in the background, we have some volume and some technical issues here. So, but you can always type in the chat. This is a brave space. Expect and accept discomfort and non-closure. Speak your truth, address issues, not individuals. Example, I feel, I believe. And then again, if you don't want to speak, you can certainly post your questions, thoughts, wonderings in the chat. Please and thank you. So we're going to get started. I'm going to pass it over to my good friend and colleague, the Director of Special Education, Ms. Christina Ciccolini.
Hi, everyone. Oops, my slide went away.
My bad. Sorry. My bad.
So I just wanted to give an update on our athletes. I'm just so happy to report that after 2 years, we were able to participate in Special Olympics this month. Our athletes in our district programs participated in Wilmington, and our lab students participated in Lexington. I'm also happy to report that after 3 years of planning and with COVID in between, our high school unified basketball team is up and running and is having a successful season. With their 50-36 win over Lexington tonight, brings their winning record so far to 4-1. And that's really it. I'm just excited that we're all having a good time. Just a few pictures from the days.
So, Ms. Ciccolini, could you, for those folks that may not be familiar with Unified, just anchor what the gift is in the design of the program and the why, if you would.
Sure. So our students in our Connections program at the high school get to play basketball with their general ed counterparts as one team. And with the help of Sean Hart, we were able to get teams together in other surrounding communities, Lexington, Belmont, Watertown, just to name a couple. And we've been able to compete. They have regular practices. They We'll have Hoopapalooza at the end of this month, which will be kind of like a tournament setting. And in the end, when they're participating in this, we're able to give them a varsity letter because it is considered a varsity sport. So they're so excited. The kids are wonderful. The collaboration between general education and special education, they work together. And the best part is they're not just working together on the court, but and developing these friendships, but they're working together and developing these friendships in the hallway. Kids seek each other out, and it's been great. When some of our students on that team actually were going to Special Olympics, the other kids on the team, our general ed counterparts, specifically went down and made sure they congratulated them before they left for the day. So it's been a really great, as Ray would say, gift for them to be able to participate, and everyone feels like they're a community and they belong.
Thank you so much, Christina. Christina's very humble about this part of it, but she played a very big part in making sure that this got off the ground and ran smoothly, her and our athletic director, Sean Hart. And it really does cement this idea of belonging and collaboration and valuing and elevating difference by being stronger together. So if you have a chance to come to Hoopapalooza or get to a game, do we have any games left? I think we got maybe one or two left.
Yep, we got one on Monday, and then Hoopalooza is Wednesday, if I have
So
my
if you
calendar correct.
you can make it. I can promise you, Mr. Larkin and I and Dr. Kant, we can promise you it's such an amazing treat. And the kids really appreciate. And what's powerful is that the collaboration of the students really loving on each other and helping each other while also having fun and competing at the same time. And it's evidence that we can do difference and still be together. And so thank you, Sean Hart and Ms. Ciccolini for helping us do this and make it happen. So it's just a wonderful opportunity. If you get a chance, please make it over. We're gonna pass it over to Ms. Carrie Lamprey, who is in the house to give us an update on EL. Oh, she got me in this picture. What's going on? How did I end up in this slide? Carrie, you're up.
Sure, and I'm actually not exactly in the house. I'm actually at the lacrosse field right now, the BHS field. We're in between lacrosse games right now, so I apologize for that. I got Ray in there because I wanted to just share very briefly that we had our LPAC meeting, our English Learner Parent Advisory Council meeting this past Monday, and Ray came and spoke about some of the work that's being done in the district. He also spoke about this session, the Let's Talk About It. And I'm actually really excited, Ray, because I definitely see two folks that were with us Monday that are online here. And I believe it might be their first time joining us. So I think it's Sabiana is with us and Tharani.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. Actually, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here.
Hi, hi. How
Thank
are you
you.
doing? How was your day?
Thank you. So glad you're here with us and hope you enjoyed the session. But I wanted to just share um, really briefly one of the highlights from this was we had two students share with us about their journeys. They're relatively new to the country and new, obviously, to our school. And they worked on a project. This was a project that actually stemmed from Shannon Janovitz, and I think she's on with us tonight, had brought in where students could tell their stories. And Katie Sullivan, the ESL teacher, collaborated with Michelle Artizzoni, our tech integration specialist, to have our newcomer students share their stories of their journeys coming to the United States. The stories are from students who are at the beginning level learning English. So, they're the level of English that they're able to produce, but they are very moving stories. And again, when we think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's really what these stories are trying to do. We are trying to share students' lived experiences, because we know that by understanding where students come from, we can create a better community for them, and a better learning environment for them. So I just want to like briefly share. I think it's only a couple minutes. If we have a second, if we have just a couple minutes, Ray, to share one sample video.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So this is from Tomas Perez, and he is from Guatemala, and he is a sophomore here at Burlington High. So if you want to play, that would be great.
It says I need permission to view the video.
Oh no, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad. Hmm. That's funny. It played on mine, but all right. Well, we won't play it tonight. That's fine. But again, these are stories that basically share students' journeys, their hopes, their goals, their dreams, and again, I encourage everyone to try to find out the stories behind our students because they're very powerful, and I think again, it just shares more about the community and who's in our community. So thank
Give
you.
me a second. I'm gonna try. Shannon said she shared a link with me, so
Shannon's so
um,
great. Thank you, Shannon.
let me try to see if I can
While
finagle it.
Patrick's working on working on that, I want to just give a little bit more context or some additional context. When we talk about the value of understanding students' backgrounds and experiences, this is not superficial, just relational purpose. And I would love at some point to hear from Shannon because Shannon does an amazing job as well as others. But like I've been in her classroom many times. And responsive teaching, when we call it culturally responsive teaching, really starts with two really important elements. One, we have to understand who our students are, because if we understand who they are, then that gives us a window into what they know, and they come with lots of knowledge, um, and then we get a window into how they know what they know. The easiest part of teaching and learning, having done it, um, is teaching students what you want them to know. But the reason we don't have high levels of success is because we skip part one and two often, unintentional, but we often skip part one and two, and that is getting to know who our students are and then understanding what they know already. As the licensed experts in instruction, our task of teaching them what we want them to know should be relatively easy because we are qualified professionals who know standards and all of those kinds of things. So when Carrie's talking about, backgrounds and experiences, that's collecting data about the young people that are in front of us instructionally. So I just wanted to give some context. But go ahead, Patrick, you got it.
Thank you. Make sure I'm gonna do my best to get the volume up here for you all.
Hello, my name is Thomas Anderson Perez Vasquez. I am from Guatemala City, Guatemala. First, in Guatemala, I live with my mother and two sisters. I moved to the United States because I had the opportunity to travel and help my mother and family. I felt sad because I left my family, friends, and my country. I traveled to the United States on January 7, 2021. I travel alone. I travel by cars, bus, and airplane. First, I was in Mexico City for about 2 weeks. Next, I was in a house for 2 days. After I had to walk for 2 hours, then arrived at the USA border. During the journey, I felt sad and sometimes happy because I remembered my family and friends, but I was happy because I knew that I would now be able to help them. Finally, now I feel happy and ready to help my family. In the future, I want to be a welder, then maybe go to college. My goals are to graduate, then work and buy a house and a car for my mother, and also buy all the things that I never had.
Thanks so much for sharing that. That's great. I feel weird just transitioning to next slide. That's such a powerful presentation, but we're going to go to the next slide.
Yeah, so Carrie, thank you so much. And again, you know, these are the things that we try to be mindful of when we talk about DEI. It's such a wide range of ways that we're trying to bring people together and bring, you know, to develop relationships and create connections, even through the indifference and the fear that a lot of folks have about this work. Um, it's a powerful story. And I think it's important for us to just try to continue to think about what stories we're telling ourselves when we feel resistance, or when when we're being resistant, or feeling away. So Carrie, thank you so much for all the great work that you do. Christina, the great work that you do. We're going to pass it over to our next colleague here to do our update on SEL. We've got the director of our social emotional learning, Miss Chrissy Conceition.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. For those who don't know me, I'm Christine Conceition. I just wanted to share some exciting news. So we have received the Leahy Hospital Medical Center Community Benefits Grant for the second year in a row to support our mental health and social emotional learning programs for Burlington Public Schools. So I'm excited to tell you that this year the grant is focusing on a couple different areas. One is providing a mental health literacy program for our staff. So it is a program that's run throughout the United States, but also internationally, called Mental Health First Aid. And we're actually having 2 staff members trained as trainers with the goal of offering the mental health first aid class to educators or any professionals working with students from grades 6 and above. So the program really focuses on what is mental health, what's mental wellness, what are some signs and symptoms that you might notice in students or any child present in your life, and how can you provide them with help and support. So we're really excited about that. The grant is also going to focus on keeping it with the educators. We're running some educator wellness groups. There's a lot of evidence that suggests a positive educator has a huge impact in the classroom, and educator wellness is directly related to student wellness. So we have already run our first educator wellness group. It was an amazing experience. It was wonderful to get together with colleagues and to discuss how things have been going in our lives, both the stressors, but also the rewards of working within Burlington Public Schools. So we're going to continue that series, and we'll be hosting another one before the end of the school year. So for all of those teachers on the call, if you would like to join the next one, I would love to have you there. I think it was really, really a wonderful afternoon to spend with colleagues. The other thing that we are going to be working on over the summer is there's a group of educators from across the district that are going to be working on some of our mental health and social emotional protocols, and also looking at picking out a school climate survey to do next fall with our high school and our middle school students. So we're really excited. Working with Leahy has been wonderful for the past 2 years. They've been a huge support to us, and are always very happy to support our work in SEL and mental health. So we're excited to be working with them again next year.
Thank you so much, Chrissy. She's awesome. She's a rock star. She's workaholic, nonstop. Every time Patrick or I or Dr. Conti turns around, we're getting an email. Hey, well, what do you think about this? Hey, this is what. She's just amazing. This is a great team to be a part of, and I want to pass the mic to our next team
Can I
member.
just, I think I may have seen David Daly's hand go up. I'm not sure. If I didn't, David, you can say so. But did you have a question on this topic or something
I
you want to?
do. I do. Christine, I had a question. Why is elementary not included in both of the programs that you talked about, in just middle and high school?
So the mental health first aid program is it's an evidence-based intervention program that's geared specifically towards working with students at a specific age range, so 12 and above. The educator wellness program is open to educators K through 12, pre-K through 12. So those emails have gone out district-wide, so anyone's welcome to join that. In looking, and the protocols are also district-wide, so K through 12 will be involved in that. The school climate surveys, we're looking at doing something similar for the elementary schools, but trying to find something that would be appropriate for elementary students to self-fill out. So we've been looking at different more global functioning surveys for them that would be available in an age development range that would make sense for them to be able to self-fill out, as the middle and high school kids can fill out a more formal survey. But absolutely, the educator wellness groups, we had staff who attended the first one from all levels, elementary, middle, and high school staff were there. And the protocols and the school climate, we're looking towards gearing that. The protocols will be district-wide, and school climate, we're working on something specific toward the elementary schools as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chrissy. Thanks, David.
Yes, thank you so much. So without further ado, we've got Miss Jennifer Knight, who rounds out the team for family and community engagement update. Jennifer.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great. I just wanted to share things that are going on in the community for those who are on and maybe don't know about it. There's a community health fair that's happening this Saturday. It's free and open to all. A lot of vendors will be there that are community Burlington-based businesses, organizations, nonprofit, for-profit. I encourage everyone to go. It's for families, so kids are welcome. Help Us is having a celebration of kindness next week, Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. And again, it's open to the community. They'll have refreshments, they'll have things for kids. Help Us has been such a great partner in supporting our students this year with basic needs. And I feel like we've strengthened that relationship with them this year. They continue to send items of clothing, household goods, home goods, materials, cleaning supplies to our families that are in need. At any request that we send, they say yes. So if you're available and want to come out and support them, they'd be so happy to see Burlington teachers, families there for their celebration of kindness. And there's a link. I don't know if anybody can click on it, but if you go to their website, helpus.org, you can RSVP, and that's just to help them get a number of how many attendees they'll have. It's free of cost. And the last thing I wanted to highlight is the community carnival. It's held at Francis Wyman. I'm not sure if other elementary schools are having a carnival this year, but Francis Wyman's is going to be epic and starts at 10 a.m. on June 4th. I'll be there with my little guy. Again, it's free and there'll be lots of stuff for kids of all ages. So I just want to encourage you to go, and we're working to build community, to get to know each other. And the more that you show up and encourage your students and families too, the stronger we'll be together. And then lastly, the Department of Family and Community Engagement is partnering with the teacher librarians at the elementary level to do a book drive. If you have books, used books, new books, clean out your kids' bookshelves that you want to donate, we will take all books, grades K through 5th grade, and we're repurposing them. We are going to give them to a selected group of students that are receiving supports during the school year for Tier 2, Tier 3 instruction, and also financially would benefit from having their own library at home. So we're hoping to end the year with giving them some books to start their own library to enjoy books and text throughout the summer. So encourage your kids to donate books. Each elementary school library is receiving books. If you're from the community and you don't have a child that attends school, please feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to come pick up donations, or you can give me a call or email and we can coordinate a time to meet. So just for the month of May is the book drive where we're receiving books. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. That is fantastic. That's plenty. That's wonderful, wonderful news. So I'm going to pass it back over to my good friend and colleague, Mr. Patrick Larkin.
Thanks, Ray. So again, just to review where we've been, because I know not everybody could attend every session. We just wanted to, give you a quick idea of what we covered this year. And as we do that, I just want to let you know the end of this, we're hoping to get some feedback on where we want to go from here. Because this is our final scheduled session for this year, but we certainly know we have a lot of work to do together moving forward. And it's really, we're going to rely on your feedback for how that might look. So again, the first session, we focused on our why in doing this work. Like, why is this important? And I remember seeing a picture of Amir Prince that Ray shared at his grandson, his why. And I know my why was thinking specifically about my children, my 3 children, and my 6 children. Um, and in what kind of a world do we want to leave for them moving forward, and how can we where we are now make a difference to create that. So that was for everybody to think about what their why is, and that why doesn't change, right? So as we think about where we want to go from here, I hope you'll think about your why. And we have a great exercise we did with our leadership team on Monday that maybe we'll do at a future session in regards to um, what are the advantages and disadvantages of doing DEI work. It was a great exercise. A lot of great stuff came out. Our second session was defining culture and understanding how bias impacts culture. And Mr. Porch, I think you do a great synopsis of what the definition of culture. Can you just let people know what how you define culture?
Sure. What we talk about at the leadership level are four elements that we feel are the strongest elements of what a culture is. And ultimately, it's how we make meaning, right? But how do we make meaning explicitly is through language. So how we speak, what language we use, and symbols of language. Our beliefs, right? So what we believe, our values, and then our actual actions or behaviors. So these are the things that we talk about as the elements of what culture is. And so we're trying to be thoughtful about like being really critical, through the lens of those elements and what we're doing and why we're doing things. So that would be kind of what we're doing at present. Thanks.
Yep, thank you. The third session was focusing on a little bit of our own identity work and how our identity impacts culture in both an environment and a community. And I'll speak for myself. I can't do the work of diversity, equity, inclusion without spending a lot of time thinking about my own identity, where I've come from, the people that impacted my life, my own background, what faith, spirituality, family, and so we talked about. I remember in that session, the wheel of power and privilege, and it's not meant to make people feel bad. It's just to think about your own identity and what got you to the point where you are today. And I can only speak for myself as a 54-year-old white man. I never spent a lot of time thinking about my own identity until the last few years and what made me who I am. So I really think it's important work for all of us to do on our own. So that was session 3. You mind talking about session 4, Mr. Porch?
Not at all, not at all. So session 4, we really continue to focus on identity and its connection to the dynamics of our schools and the greater community. As Mr. Larkin, Patrick referred to earlier, if we agree that the most prominent elements of what makes culture are beliefs, values, symbols, and language and behavior, identity is critical. And it's not about judgment of identity. It's about understanding one's own identity and how we identify. So that activity around the wheel of power and these kinds of things is it's really kind of the internal work, thinking about like who I am, how I show up, what are the things that impact me, who have been the influencers in my life, and in doing that work helps us have a better understanding of kind of how we might think about our interactions with others in the greater community and specifically in our schools. Like, how do relationships work? Like for me, I think a lot about like my own leadership style and how I might land with folks might be different because of culture. So if I come into a culture with my own, you know, beliefs and values and in the way I use language and, how I, conduct myself and it's outside of the existing culture, it makes sense that there is a ripple effect, that there's some disconnect because folks in the culture are trying to negotiate, well, you're not you're not really showing up the way people show up in this culture. And then for me, I'm trying to figure the culture out. And so I think sometimes we don't consider this when we're interacting with each other. And it has an impact on students when they show up from a different culture with teachers who are from a different culture. And so this is the work that we're trying to help, promote. And then session 5 was really
That's tonight.
I'm sorry.
That's tonight.
Oh, that's right. Tonight is session 5. Sorry about that. Session 5 is tonight, and we're really going to be building on the prior 4 sessions. And I think Jennifer spoke to this beautifully, and I put it in the chat. She used the term "build community," and I want to be clear. And we want to be clear. We're not saying that there isn't community. And I think a lot of times when we move forward and move through interacting and trying to make meaning for ourselves with other people, folks can feel a sense of loss, and folks may not identify that loss, but shows up in resistance. It shows up and Patrick uses this analogy quite a bit. I steal it from him now. He says when he's reflecting, he's saying, well, what story am I telling myself? And so I love that frame because that's that internal work that, it's exhausting, but it's so valuable for all of us. And it shows up when we do it. We're asking questions, we're not making statements, and we're wondering, and we're open to kind of hearing different perspectives. So we want to continue to build community that way, if at all possible. And we encourage people to come on this journey and stay on this journey with us.
So sorry to do so much talking at the beginning here. We just wanted to review where we've been. Hopefully the rest of the session after one more slide is going to be a lot of us talking together. So again, I think we shared this slide in one of our earlier sessions, and I don't want to read it to you all. But again, why are we here? I hope when we talk about community, you all, some of this, if not all of it, resonates with you in regards to why we are here. So I'm going to give a second just so you can read that over. And as you're reading, I do want to give Brene Brown credit for that. The story I'm telling myself, that's where I heard it first. And I tell myself some crazy stories sometimes. So the end of this resonates for me. We need to reflect and ask clarifying questions, because that story, like I said, I tell myself is way off when I share that with some people about, interactions that may have felt, off to me, like, so I encourage you to try it. If you're not somebody that's good at having brave conversations, like that's helped me get over the hurdle of having more of them. All right, so I'm just gonna back out of this for a minute so I can talk about connections and see my notes here. So
Hang on 1
connections.
second,
Yeah,
Patrick. I'm going to jump in for one more second. I did forget to give an update. One of the things I did want folks in this community to know, because not everybody would know about this, is that we have what's called a DEI Student Advisory group of high school students. They are phenomenal. Patrick and I work with these young people. We have been since the fall, and they are a group of leaders in our community. And I just wanted to share that we last week went over to the middle school, and there's been some boundary issues and some language issues at the middle school because their students are figuring things out. You trial and error. You want to see if you can, what works, what you can say, what you can't say. And this is a part of the development of young people. So I don't want to demonize the behavior, but the behavior was unexpected. And so working with Principal Purchase, we've been trying to come up with ways that we can continue to grow and develop awareness of our middle schoolers. And, in talking about this problem of practice with our DEI Student Advisory at one of our meetings, we came up with this idea of having, restorative justice circles led by the high school students. So I'm proud to say we led about 12 different circles throughout the day with every 8th grade class. And we did a debrief session yesterday with Principal Purchase, where those 10 DEI Student Advisory members gave her feedback. She listened, and it was just powerful. It was really, really powerful. All the things that we've been talking about, these young people embrace, they do authentically already on very, very high levels. And so I just wanted to share that. But I didn't want that to get lost. On the 24th, those young people will be in front of school committee, giving an update on what that's been like this year to be on the advisory committee and to do the advocacy room work. This, again, all of this work that you're hearing about, the way we think about these things, these projects, these initiatives, they all fall under the label of DEI in some shape, form, or fashion. And I know that there are people in the community that think DEI should be this or think it should be that, but it is a wide range of ways that we bring people together, make meaning together, and create better by, using difference to be stronger together. So I just wanted to share that. Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, Ray. And I just want to add one minor note. If you can be there Tuesday online would be great, to listen to our students. Because from my experience, as an administrator in multiple districts, I've had perceptions of how I think things are for students in a certain school. And then when I listen to the students, I realize I'm a little naive and it's not quite the same positive experience I envision it to be for all students. So we're not going to improve and get where we want to go without listening to student voice. And Mr. Porch would not be in our district, in my belief, if we didn't have the student voice in Burlington Public Schools. So we want to continue to ask for that student voice, listen and act based on what's actually the experience for our students. So with that, I love connections as a protocol. I'm just going to read a little bit about how it works. And if you have questions before we start, and or clarifications, because I know there's some others here that have done this protocol. So connections is a way for people to build a bridge from where they are or have been mentally, physically, etc., to where they will be going and what they will be doing. Rules for connections: speak if you want to, don't speak if you don't want to, speak only once until everyone who wants to speak has had a chance. You can listen and note what other people are saying, but do not respond during connections. So I'm going to start connections in a minute or so, and I'm going to say I'm opening connections now. When I open connections, we're going to go for 10 minutes. There may be periods of silence. That's fine. I just ask you to maybe write some notes, do your own personal reflection if you don't want to share with the group. So before I start connections, are there questions or clarifications on how connections work? Okay, the broad question I'm going to kind of open before I open connections is, what from our discussion tonight, our past discussions, or something that's happening in the world is resonating with you right now in connection to our work in Burlington? I'm opening connections now.
Think being at the middle school and hearing some of the things that have happened, and I don't directly work with the eighth graders, so I didn't really get a chance to hear or see what the high school students said. But I'm looking forward to that in the future, and I think from the feedback that I did hear, that it was really beneficial for our students, and I hope that we can continue to do things like that, because I think it's really really powerful and really important to do.
I'm just reflecting on the general question I saw for our session tonight on building community. And I guess what I'm wondering about is how to create spaces where people feel safe to share their authentic selves, and particularly if their culture they don't feel is represented in the ways that people are typically sharing about themselves in the community.
I'd like to share that one thing that stood out for me or is resonating with me right now is when you talked about knowing your students and their backgrounds, and that story from our EL student, and just questioning how well do I know the students that I work with, and how can I continue to learn more about them and their experiences.
I've been,
Oh, sorry, Wendy. I'm just thinking about, just piggyback on a little bit of what Jennifer was saying about learning our students and learning their story. I'm just thinking about, once we know what our student's story is, what do we do with that? What do we do with that information? Because it should impact the way we interact with the children that cross our paths. And hopefully once you learn that story, it does, it does resonate with you on some level. And it causes you to take pause and think about how you interact with that child.
I was reflecting a lot the past few days about our community and how just thinking about what actually happened with the tragedy the last couple days and how did our community respond, and kind of knowing more information about that, and then knowing, reflecting about what more could have been done. So I was just interested in kind of learning a little bit more about that in the community, and how we react to situations that come across that affect not only our students and staff but the community as a whole.
This isn't meant to be a piggybacking protocol, but that resonates for me because I was going to talk about the same thing. And my daughter goes to school in New Hampshire. She's a 10th grader, and she wasn't with me over the weekend, but when I picked her up from school on Monday, I asked her, you know, what was the talk about the shooting in Buffalo, and she didn't know anything about it. So kind of to that point, I've also gotten emails, a couple, like when we sent out our statement from Burlington, I don't see what this has to do with Burlington. And so I guess, locus of control to try to have the conversations with the people in Burlington about how a hate crime against a marginalized group of people impacts us all, and how we have students that are feeling this pain in a way that we as the white majority can't feel. And if we just say this has nothing to do with us, and I'm also thinking about the community where this individual drove 4 hours from to go do his harmful act, his hateful murder in a Black community. I bet they wondered what this had to do with them too. So that's where my mind is at. I do think I appreciate that we're able to send a message out in our community and begin to have conversations. I know we have a lot of work to do to get to where we need to be, but I appreciate that we can have these conversations on some level.
I think where my head has been at is thinking about the concept of humanity and how that plays into everything and everyone, um, and kind of piggybacking off of Mr. Larkin's comment about how if we're looking at everyone as part of humanity, how we're all interconnected, and how everything that we do impacts others, and being able to be our authentic selves, and being able to challenge situations and to take brave stances, to learn from each other, to understand each other, to be able to look into different perspectives. I think that's kind of where my head has been at lately.
I would say for me, I've actually been reflecting on my own progress. Where I was honestly at the beginning of July, and doing this work with all of you either through central office, admin team. Just let's talk about it, like just the difference of like of my own personal growth. I'm actually I feel good about it.
So, hi everyone. My name is Yvette, and I think one of the things that's resonating with me tonight is when it was mentioned earlier about the DNI advisory group that's occurring at the middle school level. I truly feel that this should even begin at the elementary school level, and of course, age appropriate, because children are experiencing things today that I know I never experienced, and watching the news and things like that. So they're exposed to a lot more. And this DNI advisory group at the middle school level couldn't have come at, like mentioning tonight, couldn't have come at a better time, because I had a really deep conversation this afternoon with one of my fifth grade children, who mentioned, that he wished that he was in a position where he could actually voice how he feels to his teachers, like, and feel that had that kind of power, that he could do it respectfully. But when teachers are, I'll just say this, he made the comment that teachers are supposed to be role models. But what do you do as a child when your teacher isn't a role model? And they're doing things that they're telling you not to do. So long story short, I just think that this advisory group at the middle school level is great. But I think for young people today, maybe it should start a little bit sooner, and maybe even at the elementary school level.
I'm thinking about my own journey this year from starting in Burlington July 1 to now, and it's been filled with some lefts, some rights, some potholes. I've had a gamut of feelings and emotions and conversations, building some powerful relationships that I value immensely. Um, and just thinking a lot about like what it is to you know to be my best self every day, my whole self every day. And it's not an easy thing, as a Black man working in a predominantly white school district. I love people. I'm very outgoing. My family will often say, I was having this conversation earlier today with Mr. Hart about his daughter came to visit, and she shadowed with me today, our athletic director. His daughter's a junior at Westford. And she was laughing in my office saying that her and her family have a hard time going any place with Mr. Hart because he knows so many people, and they end up getting derailed when they go out. And I laughed because I can relate to that. My wife and my daughter often now, like, they just leave me at home. They're like, yeah, we're gonna be back, right? And so anyway, I'm babbling. But this idea of who am I every day? And I think as I reflect on my year, and I'm thinking a lot about and questioning myself, has my work been useful? Have my ideas been useful? Um, do I feel a sense of belonging as I'm pushing so hard for folks to reflect and be thoughtful about what their work is and what they do in our district? Um, am I feeling those things? And it's a hard question for me to answer because I spend so much time looking down at the work, and not often, embracing my own space and my own humanity and my own value. And I got to be better with that, because I think sometimes it prohibits me from seeing the wins that we have. And I think if I feel that way as I reflect, then sometimes it probably lands that way with folks in our community, and I want to be better. Um, and so I'm trying to be more thoughtful about ways that I can do that, and um, be more thoughtful about like what that means in the work and as a person who is a part of this community. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about as of late. Thanks for listening.
As a teacher who spends this sort of season always reflecting on what I did right or wrong in the classroom, I've been thinking a lot about this past year and how the district just sort of felt different with more of an aligned focus and this group and all the great work that's happening. So this year I'm a little bit less reflective and I'm more excited about moving forward. I feel like we have done so many great things and students are feeling it because I'm hearing a lot more from them about what they think and what they believe and what we're doing right and wrong. And I'm just really excited to spend some serious time this summer and in the fall hearing that, making sure we all hear that and move forward. That's where I am.
Okay, I'm closing connections. I did go a little over because I'm trying to give like a 20-second silence and I never got there, so I really appreciate everybody stepping into the space. All right, so we will get to a little bit more of an open forum, but before we get there, we have a video we're going to have everyone watch and then do some breakout room time, and then we'll come back together. So that's what the last half hour is going to look like. So let me get this slide and see if I can get this video going. Actually, before we go to the video, I want you to, these are the questions you're going to answer when you go to your breakout rooms. And I'll put these in the chat before we go, but so you can think about what surprised you in this video, what interests you, and what, if anything, troubled you. So with that, I'm going to see if I can get this open.
I like to go see movies. Everybody knows I'm a movie person, but I always go to see movies that aren't they're just fantastic kind of, cinematography stuff. I don't want reality because I deal too much with reality. So I deliberately went because at this particular time it was King Kong. My fault. I own it. I go to see King Kong, and the only reason why, of course I had seen it, the earlier versions, but the cinematography for this new one was phenomenal. All the mechanics and all the new stuff. King Kong was doing all kind of amazing stuff. So I decided I was going to go. So I'm in, I don't know, at Baltimore. I don't know where I am traveling. And I'm with this friend of mine named Dennis. So we go in. I didn't realize the movie was 3 hours. First of all, I had to go to the bathroom when I got in. So I had to get out. So I'm trying to figure out when during the movie do I run out. So I decided it's a big bug scene, Jurassic bugs. I don't like little bugs, certainly don't like big ones. So I decided this is a good time to run out. So I run out. And as I'm running out, this is like the first day opening. So there's like 5 theaters of King Kong. So this guy runs out with his son, white man. He's like mid-30s and he's got his son, looks about 8 or 10. So they're running out and I'm going, whoa, that was out of control. The bug scene. He goes, oh boy, was it? I said, yeah, that was clearly the worst part so far. So the father runs in, but his son stops and goes, yeah, I didn't like those black people. And I'm going, why me? Is it me? Do I have like a sign on me? Right? And then the kid runs in the bathroom. So I go back in the show and I say, tell Dennis what just happened. And Dennis falls out laughing. He goes, Joy, this only happens to you. And I'm going, but because there's a scene where and here's the thing about it. That's so amazing about the scene. There's a scene of cannibals, but they're not black people. They're all kind of people. And right now they got to be politically correct. So you had Asians and they zoomed in so you could see even the main character was a blonde woman with blue eyes, but they're physically were all black, even though they represented different ethnicities. Because, they couldn't have all black people and they're not in, this age. So, but the little boy, he couldn't see that subtlety. So I'm sitting there, now I'm upset because I couldn't process. And Dennis goes, Joy, you can't process this. It's over. It's done. There are thousands of people. You're never going to be able to fix this, right? So I'm sitting here. I'm messed up for the rest of the movie. So the movie is over. We walk out, and there are droves of people coming out. And who do you think is standing there leaning on the rail was this man and his son. And I said, Dennis. He goes, no way. I said, yes, Wade, that's him. So I walk over to the man and I said, do you remember me? He says, yeah, you ran out during the bug scene. Well, they were waiting for the daughter to come out of the bathroom. That's why we were waiting at the room. I said, can I ask your son something? He says, certainly. Well, I say to the little boy, I said, now that you've seen the whole movie, because, King Kong bites it in the end. I'm figuring that's pretty bad. I said, what do you think the worst part of the movie was now? He goes, those black people. And his father goes, whoa, I'm sure. Well, yeah, they were. He was telling the father. I said, listen, I know your son's not a Nazi. Don't worry about it. That's not what the issue. And the son runs off. I said, the issue here is that they weren't all black people, but that's his image. Because you see, it wasn't the monsters that were horrific. It was those people were. And that's the image in his mind. And he's so young, he couldn't see that there were actually different groups of people as those cannibals. He only saw black people. And his father, you could just see, was tortured. He says, I don't know. This problem is so big. I don't know if we can ever make it right. And I said, you see, now we're having another conversation, he and I. He goes, it's just so big. I don't know if we can make it right. I said, perhaps. I said, I have to believe that we can. And so his daughter runs out, and now he has his son and his daughter. And he's disturbed, though, you can tell. And he's walking away, and Dennis looks at me, and I look at Dennis. And he gets to the escalator, and he stops. And he takes both of his children, and he turns around, and he walks back to me, and he says, but I will make it right with them. Because I can make it right with them. See, that's where the healing begins, That's where, those moments.
All right, it's 8:06. I'm going to put people in breakout rooms for about 10 minutes to answer those questions, and then we'll come back and share out as a group, and we'll talk about, if people want to share some ideas after we talk about the breakouts of where we might go moving forward. So I'm going to create those assignments right now and start the breakout rooms.
Whether it's advice on managing your anxiety or tools to help you stay grounded, Coping-19 provides a range of resources and self-care tips to help you cope with this pandemic. We can help. Find the resources that work best for you at coping-19.org.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Hey, let's check out this park. Oh, wow, that's really cool.
To find a great local park or forest near you, go to discovertheforest.org.
All right, it looks like we're all back, whether we wanted to be back or not. And just want to, again, spend a little bit of time asking if somebody would be willing to share from their breakout group about what came up from the video. It can be about one of the questions or what was the discussion in your group.
I'll just share that I was with Kim and Yvette, and they both talked about just how, when we talk about what's surprising about how, with so much grace, that speaker, was both able to reflect on that experience in that video and actually have it in the first place, because to feel safe in that space, to even approach that family and to do it in a way that seems from her so effortless and natural, and yet something that and now I'm sort of speaking from my own opinion here, we feel we have to really like wordsmith and practice and think about how are we going to, you know, do this, you know, me speaking from a white male perspective. That's my thought.
Thanks, Sean. I just want to share quickly, and I hope a few other people will chime in, that Dr. Joy Degree is like, she's at Portland State University, and she's one of the preeminent speakers on the work and in regards to social work. She wrote a book called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. So she's well known for her work. So her comfort level in having those types of discussions is because that's her professional work as well.
I was going to highlight that too, Patrick. So thank you for doing that. In our group, we really talked about, and I don't want to speak for everybody in our group. I was with Carl and Chrissy and Bobby, and we really were highlighting that the level of hope in the interaction what came across for us in a very powerful way. And sometimes it's hard to keep that because what was said was like these issues are so big and they're so heavy. And to Sean's point, people are afraid, right? And so we can get paralyzed into like being hopeless and inactive. And so that video really went this whole continuum happened. And reflection happened, and meeting someone where they were happened. It was powerful. So Carl and Chrissy and Bobby, I didn't want to speak for everybody, so you guys chime in.
No, you did a good job, Ray. And I was lucky enough to be with my wife in the same group, so that was awesome. I think one of the things that we talked about is, or I mentioned, I love that. So it reminded me of the story of the like young kid who's throwing starfish into the ocean, and someone comes up to him and says, "What are you like? Why are you doing? Look at all these starfish. You're not going to make a difference." And he said, I can make a difference for this one." And I was thinking about, so there aren't a lot of middle school kids who come up and say, "Mr. C, thanks a lot. I really appreciate what you've done for me." But I think what we talked about is like that Chrissy talked about bumping into a former student at Chipotle today who had a car, who wanted to show her the car that they just bought. So like those little moments are that we make an impact, and sometimes we don't know that it, with the impact that we make down, and that it comes to fruition down the road. So
One of the things in our group that we talked about was thinking about like how did the parent process what was told to him. And I know he said, "I'm going to fix this," but really thinking about how not only is he have to fix this with his children, but really like the questions are what to look inward to himself, you know, what did I do or not do as a parent to have my children, you know, speaking this way and having these thoughts and feelings, and you know, kind of wondering about what steps did he have to do within himself first or within his family, and then how does that, you know, trickle down to his children and even the community that he's surrounded with. So it kept me and a few of us like wondering kind of, you know, what were the next steps, like what happens. And that's often how you know, I reflect in my work here is, you know, thinking about what do I know now, and what can I do, and how can I put that into action with what I've learned. Thanks.
Thanks, Wendy.
I was in a group with Dawn and Dave, and part of what we were talking about similarly what Wendy just shared, but just to share for myself, I was reflecting. I saw King Kong, loved it, did not, you know, realize how that scene could be interpreted, but now looking back on it, just feel, yeah, unaware. And so I guess that's part of the problem in trying to figure out how to fix things, is that we have so many embedded racist messages that, we're kind of primed for, our children especially are primed for, and that feels very overwhelming. But then I think my group also came to that realization of we have to work on that, but really where we're most powerful, I think, is on that individual level of just what we can do, and on any given day too.
Thanks, Emily. Bobby, I think you were listening in on a conversation I had with Ray this week, because I was talking about this video and like the healing part of it. I thought was a perfect ending for our last session, and I referenced the starfish story myself. And it also makes me think about when we talk about having these conversations at home with our own children, with or people we're connected with or close with. And I think about how the white dominant culture is set up to sustain ourselves. Like if we talk about sustain itself, if we talk about how in some parts of the country, like we can't talk about these things in school. I talked to my daughter. I did make a call to my daughter's school and I wasn't angry. I just asked questions, and they can't use the word privilege in New Hampshire anymore. It's part of legislation. So with all that, I mean, I think you can see how this perpetuates a lot of kids in that school will never hear or talk about situations like the Buffalo shooting, and they become numb. It's normal, like that stuff doesn't affect them, and that's how it perpetuates itself. So I appreciate having these conversations with everyone here, and we're having conversations because we want a better future, and we're not ignoring the stuff that's obvious to us. So yeah, no, I really appreciate all the sharing. It's 8:26. We have about 4 minutes left, and I'm wondering, there's no wrong answer on this. How do people, I appreciate Yvette's thoughts earlier on, we need to do this work younger. And I think a lot of us in this group have had that same conversation, Yvette. So hopefully that will be a action item that you will see clearly in our district next year, like how we can make that happen. And I know people are already doing it, in pockets, people that feel ready to do that work, but we want to systematize it. But other things that you think moving forward that can help you as individuals, help a group of people, like what are thoughts you have on us continuing this work in Burlington? Because it's not it's not the work of one individual, it's not the work of a small group, it's all of our work, and the more people we can bring on, the better off we're going to be. So what are some of your thoughts?
I'm going to say, of course, let's keep going. I might be a little biased. I don't know.
Yes,
That was appropriate.
Oh, go ahead.
Saying that was appropriate, that she's a little biased.
So at the very beginning of the meeting, one of the things that I was thinking is that for those of us who attend the meeting, maybe for the next session next year, we can each invite someone. Yeah, that was just a thought of mine. And I mean, I'll start with myself, of course, but because I know many people that every time I come, just like, why didn't I invite them? So I think that that's a great way to continue these meetings.
Love that idea. Love, love, love it. Thank you, Yvette. And I also wanted to add on to what Patrick was sharing with regards to the work with our young people. The other thing I didn't get to share was the high schoolers going to the middle school had an impact with the students, absolutely. But it also had a powerful impact with the teachers who didn't facilitate, but were a part of the circles. I think it really, like some of the feedback I got was, it really made them think deeply about their own levels of awareness and in some subtle ways in which they interact with students. And that they actually had a chance to think about that and then come back full circle and say, wow, that reflection that happened to me was caused by some high school student who helped me be more reflective, which was powerful. So we will absolutely be building on the work, and to Patrick's point, in a more kind of structured way. And we're going to hopefully build some teams out at the school level to do that effectively. So Yvette, know that your idea is certainly something we're going to continue to move it forward. So I wanted you to hear that.
I've been thinking a lot about this, and part of it is like an open wonder, because I recognize that maybe I should know more and I don't, because maybe I'm not participating enough, or maybe we just haven't had a lot of community gatherings, large scale community gatherings recently, given global pandemic. But as we move into a time where those seem to be reopening, what does it look like to have representation of Burlington school leaders, Burlington school teachers, at events, almost like a booth, a table, where we're just there to talk and connect with our community members and answer questions that they have, or when we can't answer the questions, consider ways that we can connect them with the people that we do. I think about the different coming events that will inevitably be coming up in the next few years, whether it's the Special Olympics events that just took place, or I know that at least last year Burlington had a Pride Month, and or excuse me, a Pride event on their common. Are they planning on doing that again? Is Burlington planning on having some sort of representation there to just be able to connect and talk about the schools, the initiatives, because I recognize that this space is valuable, but I also recognize that it can only go so far in terms of real community building. Like to get those people who are not paying attention to the digital community space, for real talk, can we get that elsewhere? So I'm sort of thinking about that aloudly, to this group, but largely also to myself.
Shannon, I was going to ask, do you mind sharing the essential question for the summer reading for the students? Because I feel like it connects to our work as well.
Sure. We, for our one question, one school this year, the essential question is, what does it mean to be a responsible member of a diverse community? And I mean, for the summer reading, the kids will read a book and we'll talk about the question, but the idea is that we can carry that question throughout the whole school year. And I think students are feeling a little bit more ready for these conversations than they were a year or two ago. So I think I'm really, again, looking ahead, aspirational reflections, excited about it.
Yeah. No, and I think that was a vote, right, that people voted on. So I was happy to see that win the vote. So that's great.
Yes, people were big fans of that question.
I love Sean, your thinking. I wrote in the chat, big idea for sure. I guess I wonder about, as I think about where we are as a district, expanding into, and like you said, in a more outside of this framing. What would be the things that would encourage folks to go and be at a booth? What would be the benefits of doing that beyond building community for people individually? Because that, again, it's a choice to go and get into those spaces and have these conversations, understanding that everybody's in a different place. Some people will welcome and some people will resist. There's a level of purpose that one has to have for that to be something that people choose to do individually, I guess is where my brain goes when I hear you talk about that. So I'm wondering if if people in the community were interested in doing that. One, how will you message it? And two, how do you create the conditions for folks to talk about what they'll experience? I knew what I was experiencing in this virtual space, and push back in some of the questions and some of the perspectives that folks have shared with me privately. Going into community will create bigger, of those things. And so I just wonder about like what kind of additional elements might go into pursuing that, because it's a really big idea, but like, I just wonder about how people would think about those pieces, because people have to choose that.
I know we're just past 8:30 and we usually go till 8:30, so I hate to like stop the conversation, but you know how to connect with us if you have thoughts beyond. I mean, I know this isn't something you turn it off when you go out of here, but if you think of things, like, please reach out. I'll put my email in. I know people in the district can access it easily, but just for people that aren't in the district, and if Ray, you don't mind putting yours in the chat, please reach out if you have thoughts on things that you would like to see us consider to continue building on this work, because it's not one thing, it's a lot of things, and it's the more of us that we can get working together, the better off we're going to be. So I appreciate everybody turning out tonight and being here for an hour and a half, and we'll hang in if people want to continue talking, but I just want to honor your time.
I'll say this, and I didn't get a chance to say it before, but I appreciate each and every one of you for being here in other sessions and just being willing to show up and talk and have these discussions. And then even in this group, I know we're all in different places, and I just appreciate your will and your commit to participating and engaging. So thank you all for that, and I appreciate each and every one of you.